The massive council chamber floated in the darkness of space, its crystal walls glowing with soft blue light. Inside, creatures from across the galaxy sat in their special seats, each one different and strange. Some looked like giant insects, with too many arms. Others were made of living light that moved like ghosts. A few had skin like rocks and eyes that burned like small suns. Today they were all laughing. Ambassador Cora stood at the center of the room, her tall body covered in shining scales. She waved her 4 arms at the big screen behind her. On it was a picture of a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in the black of space. "Look at this little world," she said, her voice making a sound like wind through metal. "The creatures there call it Earth. They call themselves humans. We have been watching them for 300 years, and they are still so very stupid." The bug-like creatures clicked their sharp teeth together, making sounds like breaking glass. Their leader, Vex, spoke with a voice that buzzed like 1,000 flies. Their messages into space are so weak and simple, like children playing with broken toys. "Yes, yes," agreed Thane, whose body was made of moving shadow and silver light. He floated above his seat, sometimes becoming solid, sometimes turning into mist. They send their little radio signals out into the darkness, begging someone to talk to them. How sad and pathetic they are. The screen changed to show pictures of Earth cities with their small buildings and primitive roads. Then it showed their rockets, tiny metal tubes that could barely leave their planet's pull. "They still fight wars with each other," Cora continued, her voice full of disgust. "Brother kills brother over pieces of dirt and drops of water. They have learned nothing about peace or wisdom." An old creature that looked like a walking tree made of silver spoke up. His voice was deep and slow, like distant thunder. "In our records, species like this never grow beyond their primitive state. They destroy themselves within a few thousand years." "Exactly," Cora said, pressing buttons on her control panel. "That is why today we vote to put them in Class 7. They are children who will never grow up. We will watch them from far away, but we will never speak to them. They are not worthy of joining our great community of civilized worlds." The voting began. Each species had their own way of saying yes. The bug creatures made sharp clicking sounds. The shadow people flashed bright lights. The rock creatures stamped their heavy feet. The tree-like beings swayed their branches. Every single vote was the same. Yes, Earth's humans were too stupid and violent to ever be part of the galactic family. "It is decided," Cora announced. "Earth remains classified as a developing world, of the 7th class. They will not be contacted, they will not be helped. They will not be acknowledged as equals until they prove they can grow beyond their primitive nature." More laughter filled the chamber. Vex, the bug leader, made a sound, like breaking metal. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years they might learn to make proper spacecraft, though I doubt they will live that long without destroying themselves first." Thane, the shadow creature, flickered in and out of sight as he laughed. "Their attempts to find us are so amusing. They point their crude listening devices at the stars, hoping to hear our voices. They have no idea we have been watching them all along." "Let them keep trying," said the old tree creature. "It entertains us to watch them struggle and fail." The council members began to leave, floating or walking back to their ships. They talked among themselves, sharing jokes about the stupid humans and their backward little world. Some made bets about how long Earth would last before the humans destroyed themselves in another war. None of them noticed the small dark objects floating in the empty space around their station. The objects were too small to see, too quiet to hear, and too advanced for their sensors to detect. They looked like tiny pieces of space rock, but they were not rocks at all. Deep inside each object, advanced recording systems captured every word spoken in the council chamber. Every laugh, every insult, every dismissive comment was stored in memory banks that would never forget. Far away, at the edge of Earth's solar system, more of these listening posts floated in the darkness between planets. They had been there for decades, silent and patient, watching and recording everything that passed by. The galactic civilizations had been broadcasting their thoughts and opinions about Earth for centuries, never knowing that someone was listening to every word. In hidden bases beneath Earth's surface, The recordings were played and studied. Human scientists and engineers listened to every slight, every insult, every joke made at their expense. They learned the alien languages, studied their technologies, and discovered their weaknesses. The galaxy thought Earth was silent because humans were primitive and stupid. They were wrong. Earth was silent because humans were listening, learning, and preparing for the day when they would finally have something to say. That day was coming sooner than the galaxy could imagine. Deep beneath the frozen ground of Antarctica, Dr. Lee Sona walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The walls were made of a strange metal that seemed to shift colors in the light, sometimes silver, sometimes blue, sometimes completely invisible. This was not human technology, at least not originally. She stopped at a massive door that recognized her face and opened without sound. Inside, the room stretched out like a small city. Hundreds of people in white coats worked at stations, filled with equipment that would make the galaxy's greatest scientists cry with envy. "Report," she said to her assistant, Kim Wubin, who was studying a piece of crystal that glowed with its own inner light. "The Zephyrian crystal technology is finally stable," he said, holding up the glowing stone. "We can now grow these crystals, faster and stronger than the original makers. And the best part is we figured out how to make them work with the bug people's biocomputers." Sona smiled. For 200 years, humanity had been collecting gifts from their galactic neighbors. Every time an alien ship crashed on Earth, every time they left behind broken equipment, every time they threw away what they thought was garbage, humans had been there to pick it up and take it apart. She walked to the next station where Dr. Park Minho was working with something that looked like living metal. It moved like water but was harder than diamond. "How is the Hegemony Biotech project going?" she asked. "Better than expected," Minho replied, watching the metal flow through his fingers. "We learned how to make it bond with human DNA. Now our soldiers can heal from almost any wound in minutes. But we kept the one thing the bug people lost, the ability to think for ourselves. The aliens thought they were so smart with their specialized technologies. The crystal people had built everything around their glowing stones. The bug creatures had given up individual thought to join hive minds. The shadow people could phase in and out of reality, but became helpless when trapped in normal space. Each species had become perfect at one thing, but useless at everything else. Humans had studied them all and taken the best parts while avoiding their mistakes." Sona continued her tour, passing stations where engineers worked on ships that could become invisible like the shadow people's vessels, but could also fight when solid like human warships. Other teams were perfecting weapons that combined crystal energy with biometal targeting systems. "Director," called out Captain Jung Hieran from across the room. She was wearing a uniform that looked normal until you noticed it was made of the same color-shifting metal as the walls. "The lunar construction teams report the moon base is ready. All weapon systems are online and hidden." Sona nodded. The moon had always looked the same from Earth, but inside, human engineers had been busy for decades. The entire interior had been hollowed out and filled with defensive systems that could destroy entire fleets. From the outside, it still looked like a simple dead rock. "What about Mars?" Sona asked. "The shipyards are fully operational," Hieran replied. "We have 300 vessels ready for launch, all hidden beneath the surface. The aliens think Mars is just another empty planet, but it's actually our main military base. The genius of humanity's plan was its simplicity. While the galaxy mocked their primitive radio signals and crude rockets, humans had been building a completely different civilization underground and on other worlds. Every alien species that had dismissed them had unknowingly taught them new technologies." Dr. Shinjun approached with a tablet showing star maps. "The listening posts throughout the solar system have intercepted more communications," she reported. "The Zephyrians are planning to make an example of us. They want to show the galaxy what happens to species that try to contact their betters." "Let them come," Sona said quietly. "They still think we're the same primitive species they've been watching for centuries. They have no idea what we've become." She walked to a window that showed the Antarctic landscape above. It looked empty and frozen, but beneath the ice lay cities connected by tunnels that spanned continents. Hidden factories produced technologies that combined the best inventions of dozens of alien civilizations. The truly beautiful part was that humans had not just copied alien technology, they had improved it. Crystal technology that was more efficient than the Zephyrian version. Biocomputers that were smarter than the hegemony's hive minds. Phase-shifting systems that were more stable than the Shadow People's abilities. "Sir," said Lieutenant Osoyan, approaching with urgent news. "Our deep space monitors have detected a large fleet moving toward our system. Zephyrian ships, over 200 of them." Sona looked around at her teams, at the incredible technology they had built, at the weapons and defenses that had been prepared for this moment. The galaxy thought Earth was silent because humans were ignorant and weak. They were about to learn the truth. Earth had been silent because humans were listening, learning, and preparing. Every insult, every dismissive laugh, every moment of alien arrogance had been recorded and remembered. "Send the signal to all stations," Sona commanded. "Operation Awakening begins now. It's time to show the galaxy what Earth's silence really meant." The time for hiding was over. Humanity was ready to speak, and the galaxy was going to listen whether it wanted to or not. Admiral Kora's warfleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a pack of hungry wolves. 200 Zephyrian warships hung in the darkness, their crystal hulls glowing with deadly energy. Each ship was the size of a small city, armed with weapons that could crack planets. "There," Kora said from her command chair, pointing at the empty space ahead. "That is where their pathetic little world should be." But space was empty. No blue planet, no primitive rockets, nothing but black void and distant stars. Captain Vex, standing beside her, checked his instruments 3 times. "Admiral, our star. Charts show the third planet should be right here, but sensors detect nothing." "Impossible," Kora hissed, her scales changing from blue to angry red. "Planets do not simply disappear. Scan again." The fleet's most powerful sensors swept the area where Earth should have been. Still nothing. The bridge crew whispered nervously, among themselves. In 3,000 years of space travel, they had never seen a planet vanish. Then, like a curtain being pulled away, Earth appeared. The blue and green world materialized exactly where it should have been, as if it had been there, all along. The Zephyrian crew stared in shock at their screens. Planets did not have invisible cloaking fields. That technology was impossible even for them. "Some kind of trick," Kora muttered, but her voice shook slightly. "Prepare for attack. These primitives will pay for their games." Then the moon moved. The ancient cratered surface that had watched over Earth for billions of years began to split apart like a flower opening to the sun. Sections of rock and dust fell away, revealing metal structures underneath that gleamed like polished mirrors. Weapon ports opened across the moon's surface, hundreds of them, then thousands. Energy readings spiked so high that the Zephyrian instruments could not measure them properly. "By the crystal throne," whispered Captain Vex. "What have they done to their moon?" Before anyone could answer, Mars began to change too. The red planet's surface cracked and shifted, revealing massive doors built into its crust. The doors opened and ships began to emerge. Not the crude chemical rockets the aliens had been watching for centuries, but sleek vessels that moved, like living things through space. Commander Kim Nara watched from the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Silent Thunder. The ship was invisible to Zephyrian sensors, built with technology that combined the best tricks from every species that had ever mocked humanity. "Admiral," she reported to the woman sitting in the command chair, "all systems are ready. Shadow Fleet is in position." Admiral Choi Minji nodded calmly. She had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Every human in the fleet had grown up hearing stories of how the galaxy mocked their world. Today, those stories would end. "Open communications to the Zephyrian fleet," she ordered. The transmission cut through space and appeared on every Zephyrian screen. The aliens saw a human woman in a uniform they did not recognize, standing on a bridge filled with technology that should not exist. "Zephyrian fleet," Admiral Minji spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Choi of the Terran Defense Force. You came here, expecting to find primitives cowering in fear. Instead, you have found your teachers. Admiral Korra's face twisted with rage. Impossible. You are nothing but savages with crude rockets. We were students, Minji replied calmly. You were our professors. Every dismissive comment, every insult, every moment you spent mocking our silence, those were our lessons. Thank you for teaching us so well. The battle began without warning. The human ships moved unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. They shifted and flowed through space like schools of fish, each vessel adapting its tactics in real time. When Zephyrian crystal weapons fired, human shields absorbed the energy and sent it back doubled. Captain Li Dongmin commanded a squadron of fighters that could phase in and out of reality like the Shadow People's ships, but with better control. His pilots struck Zephyrian vessels from impossible angles, disabling their weapons without destroying the ships entirely. Target their crystal matrices, he ordered his wing. Disable, don't destroy. We want prisoners, not corpses. The Zephyrian, fleet so confident in their superiority, found themselves completely outmatched. Their weapons could not lock onto targets that flickered between dimensions. Their shields meant nothing against weapons that adapted to any defense. Their tactics, perfected over millennia, were useless against an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. In 17 minutes, it was over. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Half the Zephyrian fleet was disabled and drifting. The other half was fleeing in terror, their proud crystal hulls cracked and dark. Lieutenant Song Jimin opened communications to the retreating ships. His voice was young but carried the weight of centuries of human patience. Tell the Galactic Council, he said as the broken fleet limped away into hyperspace, that Earth remembers every slight. We are no longer silent. We are no longer hiding. And we are definitely no longer the primitives you thought we were. As the last Zephyrian ship disappeared, Admiral Minji looked out at the stars where other alien civilizations waited. Soon they would all learn the same lesson. The quiet ones are always the most dangerous when they finally decide to speak. The emergency alarms screamed through the Galactic Council station like wounded animals. Red lights flashed in every corridor as panicked aliens ran between meeting rooms, their voices mixing into a chaos of fear and confusion. In the main council chamber, Ambassador Korra stood before the assembled delegates, her once proud scales now dull with shame and terror. Behind her, holographic displays showed the wreckage of her mighty fleet floating dead in space around Earth's system. The humans did this? Asked Vex, the hegemony leader, his insect eyes wide with disbelief. Those primitive creatures with their crude rockets? See for yourself, Korra said, activating the recordings from her surviving ships. The chamber filled with images of sleek human vessels that moved like living things, weapons that adapted to any defense, and technology that made their own look like children's toys. But that was only the beginning of the bad news. Deep beneath Earth's ice in her hidden command center, Director Nam Yoonji watched dozens of screens showing alien worlds across the galaxy. Each screen told the same story. Carefully planned operations designed to humble entire civilizations. Status report on Operation Mirror, she said to her lieutenant, Park Seojin. The Zephyrian crystal farms on 12 worlds are completely infected, he reported with satisfaction. The resonance virus we planted makes their technology unreliable. Their ships keep breaking down, their weapons misfire, and their communication systems produce nothing but noise. Yoonji smiled coldly. The virus was completely harmless to living beings, but it made Zephyrian crystal technology work poorly. After centuries of depending on their perfect crystals, the proud Zephyrian Empire was learning what it felt like when technology failed. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Bae Suman watched from her stealth ship as chaos spread through a hegemony colony world. The bug-like aliens were running through their cities in panic, making sounds like breaking glass as they tried to understand what was happening to them. Sir, reported her communications officer, the hive mind jamming is working perfectly. They can't connect to each other's thoughts anymore. For thousands of years, the hegemony had lived as one giant mind spread across millions of bodies. Individual thought was something they had forgotten how to do. Now, trapped alone in their own heads for the first time in centuries, they were going insane with fear and loneliness. The Shadow People were having their own problems. Lieutenant Minjae piloted his ship through a region of space where the Voidwalkers used to phase freely between dimensions. Now they were trapped in normal space, unable to shift, unable to hide. The dimensional anchors are holding, he reported to his commander. 14 Voidwalker fleets are stuck in solid form. They don't know how to fight when they can't disappear. Each attack was perfectly planned to exploit the weakness that came from over-specialization. The Crystal people had forgotten how to live without their technology. The Bug people had forgotten how to think alone. The Shadow people had forgotten how to exist in normal reality. Back in the council chamber, more reports arrived every hour. The tree-like Sylvans found their bio-networks infected with a growth pattern that made their living ships grow too fast and break apart. The rock people discovered their mineral processing plants were producing useless dust instead of pure metals. How? Is this possible? Demanded Thane, the Voidwalker representative, his shadow form flickering with panic. How do they know exactly how to hurt us? The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Jung Yuna of the Terran Diplomatic Corps appeared on the chamber's main screen, her uniform crisp and her expression calm. "Hello, honored delegates," she said with perfect politeness. "We wanted to thank you for the excellent education you provided over the past 3 centuries. "Education?" sputtered Cora. "What education?" "Every broadcast you made mocking our primitive ways," Yuna explained. "Every conversation about our weaknesses. Every discussion of your own superior technologies. We recorded it all. We studied every word. You taught us everything we needed to know about your civilizations and your vulnerabilities." The truth hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. For centuries, they had openly discussed their own technologies, their dependencies, their limitations, never imagining that the primitive humans were listening and learning. "You see," Yuna continued, "you assumed our silence meant ignorance. Actually, it meant we were paying attention. While you talked, we listened. While you laughed, we learned. While you dismissed us, we prepared." Dr. Shin Jae-woo appeared beside Yuna on the screen. "Each of your species achieved greatness by becoming perfect at one type of technology. But perfection makes you fragile. You forgot how to adapt, how to change, how to survive when your perfect systems fail. Humans never achieved perfection," added Commander Lee Hana. "We remained generalists, adapters, survivors. That is why we could take the best parts of all your technologies and combine them into something better." The council chamber fell silent except for the continued wailing of emergency alarms. The galaxy's oldest and proudest civilizations finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. They had taught their replacements everything they needed to know to defeat them. And those replacements had been very good students indeed. The age of alien superiority was ending, and humanity's lesson in humility was just beginning. The massive human fleet appeared around the Galactic Council station without warning, like ghosts materializing from empty space. 300 ships hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technology that combined the best inventions from every species that had ever mocked Earth. Inside the council chamber, alien delegates pressed against the windows, staring at vessels that moved like living creatures through the void. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sleek predators that could destroy the entire station with a thought. But no weapons fired. Instead, a single transmission reached the Council's communication center. "Galactic Council," came a calm female voice. "This is Admiral Park Soyeon of the Terran Federation. We request permission to address your assembly." The chamber erupted in panicked chatter. Cora, her crystal scales now dim with defeat, slumped in her chair. "What choice do we have?" she whispered. "Let them speak." Admiral Soyeon materialized as a hologram in the center of the chamber. She was young looking for a human, with short, black hair and eyes that held the weight of centuries of patience finally rewarded. Her uniform bore symbols that no alien database could identify. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "I stand before you today not as a conqueror, but as a teacher." Vex, the hegemony leader, clicked his mandibles nervously. "Teacher? You are nothing but primitives." "Who got lucky?" Soyeon smiled, and somehow that smile was more frightening than any weapon. You are correct that we were primitives. The key word is were. You see, we had excellent teachers. You. Behind her, holographic displays filled the air, showing alien worlds where carefully planned operations had brought proud civilizations to their knees. Crystal technology failing across Zephyrian space, hegemony colonies where individual thought had driven hive minds to madness. Voidwalker fleets trapped in normal space, helpless as newborns. For 300 years, Soyeon continued, you broadcast your thoughts, your technologies, your weaknesses across the galaxy. You discussed your dependencies in open transmissions. You mocked our attempts to contact you, never realizing that every insult was a lesson, every dismissive comment was valuable intelligence. She gestured, and new images appeared. Human cities beneath Earth's surface, fleets hidden inside Mars, weapons arrays built into the moon itself. You taught us that specialization leads to weakness, so we became generalists. You showed us that perfection creates fragility, so we embraced adaptation. You demonstrated that arrogance blinds you to danger, so we learned to listen before we spoke. Dr. Kim Nara appeared beside the Admiral, her lab coat replaced by the same mysterious uniform. Each of your species achieved greatness by mastering one type of technology, but you forgot the most important lesson: how to grow beyond your limitations. The Zephyrians built everything around crystal technology, she explained. But crystals can be disrupted. The hegemony created perfect unity of thought, but unity becomes chaos when communication fails. The Voidwalkers mastered dimensional travel, but every ability has a counter. Thane, the shadow representative, flickered in and out of existence with agitation. What do you want from us? Surrender? Tribute? We want equality, Soyeon said simply. Earth claims its rightful place as a member of this council, with full voting rights and recognition as a galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent. After centuries of dismissing humanity as primitive savages, the idea of accepting them as equals was almost impossible to comprehend. In exchange, continued Dr. Kim, we offer to share our hybrid technologies. We can help you overcome your dangerous dependencies, teach you to adapt as we learn to adapt. Captain Lee Jun materialized as another hologram, wearing the insignia of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. The Zephyrians can learn to build technology that works without crystals. The hegemony can discover the strength that comes from individual creativity combined with group cooperation. The Voidwalkers can master both dimensional travel and normal space combat. Or, Admiral Soyeon added quietly, you can refuse our offer and watch your civilizations crumble as we exploit every weakness you so generously taught us over the centuries. The choice was clear, though it hurt their pride more than any weapon could hurt their bodies. One by one, the species that had mocked humanity's silence voted to accept their former victims as equals. Korra was the first. Her voice was barely a whisper as she said, the Zephyrian Empire recognizes Terra as an equal member of this council. Vex followed, his mandibles clicking in defeat. The hegemony accepts the human proposal. Each vote came harder than the last, but the alternative was watching their ancient civilizations collapse under their own rigid limitations. When the final vote was cast, Admiral Soyeon bowed respectfully to the assembly. Thank you for this opportunity. Humanity looks forward to working with you as partners rather than students. As the human fleet began to disperse, taking up positions throughout the galaxy as the newest galactic power, the aliens finally understood what Earth's silence had really meant. It had never been ignorance or weakness. It had been patience. The patience of a species that knew when to listen, when to learn, and when to act. The galaxy's newest teachers had graduated from their longest lesson, and now class was in session for everyone else. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check. Responses.